A night shift nurse broke hospital rules for one patient, and fell in love. It was the kind of night that felt too quiet, the kind that makes you hear your own thoughts a little louder than usual. Claire Bennett stood at the end of the hospital hallway, her shoes barely making a sound against the polished floor. The fluorescent lights hummed softly above her, steady and indifferent. It was just past 2 a.m., that strange hour when time seems to slow down, when even pain feels tired. She adjusted the stethoscope around her neck and glanced at the patient chart in her hand, then back toward room 312. "All right, Claire," she whispered to herself, "just another check-in." But deep down, she already knew it wasn't just another check-in. Daniel Hayes had been in that room for 11 days. 36 years old, construction worker, divorced, no visitors, compound fracture in his right leg, multiple surgeries, and now a long, uncertain recovery ahead. The kind that doesn't just test your body, but your spirit too. Claire had seen his type before. Quiet, polite, keeps the pain to himself. But she had also seen something else in him, something harder to name. Loneliness. She knocked softly before stepping inside. "Evening, Mr. Hayes," she said gently. "Or, I guess it's morning now." Daniel gave a faint smile from the bed, his dark hair slightly messy, his hospital gown loose around his shoulders. "I stopped keeping track," he replied, voice low. "Time doesn't do much in here anyway." Claire walked closer, checking the monitors, adjusting the IV line with careful hands. "Well," she said, her tone soft but steady, "time still matters to folks out there. Sunrise is coming, whether we notice or not." Daniel looked at her for a moment, really looked. "You always talk like that?" he asked. "Or just on night shift?" Claire chuckled quietly. "Just trying to keep things from feeling too heavy," she said. "Comes with the job." There was a pause. Then Daniel nodded slowly. "I reckon folks like you are the reason people make it through nights like this." That was the first real conversation they had. And somehow, it didn't feel like the last. Over the next few nights, Claire found herself lingering just a little longer in room 312. Not enough to raise suspicion, but enough to matter. She'd straighten his blanket, check his vitals, then stay, just a minute more. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't, but there was a kind of quiet understanding between them, the kind that doesn't need filling. One night, Claire found Daniel staring out the window. The city lights flickered in the distance, soft and far away. "You ever miss it?" he asked without turning. "Miss what?" Claire said. "Life," he replied. "The normal kind." Claire leaned against the wall, folding her arms gently. "All the time," she said. "But I've learned something over the years." Daniel glanced at her. "What's that?" "That normal isn't really a place," she said softly. "It's just moments. Little ones. You don't notice them until they're gone." Daniel let that sit for a while. "Yeah," he murmured. "I had those once." Bit by bit, he started opening up. About his job. About his small apartment on the edge of town. About the wife who left 3 years ago, and the silence she took with her. "I wasn't a bad man," he said one night, voice rough. "Just worked too much, I guess." Thought that was enough. Claire didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it. She just listened. Because sometimes, that's all people really need. And then, one night, everything changed. It was colder than usual. A thin wind rattled the windows, and the hospital felt emptier than ever. Claire checked Daniel's chart, then looked at him. He seemed different, restless. "You all right?" she asked. He hesitated, then shook his head. Slightly. "Can't sleep," he said. Legs fine. It's just everything else. Claire stepped closer. What's on your mind? Daniel exhaled slowly. I used to sit on my roof, he said. Back home. Just watch the city at night. Helped me think. He gave a small, almost embarrassed smile. Funny, the things you miss. Claire's heart tightened just a little, because she knew what he wasn't saying. He didn't just miss the view. He missed feeling free. Hospital rules were clear. Patients stayed inside, especially ones in his condition. No exceptions. Claire looked at the door, then back at Daniel, then at the clock. 2:47 a.m. The quietest hour. The hour when most people look the other way. Well, she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper, I might know a place. Daniel frowned slightly. What do you mean? Claire met his eyes. I mean, she said, if you trust me, we could take a little walk. 30 minutes later, they were on the rooftop. The night air was cool and gentle. The city stretched out before them, glowing softly under the stars. Daniel sat in a wheelchair, his leg carefully supported, his hands resting still. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. He just looked, breathed, felt. Ma'am, he said quietly, his voice catching just a little, I don't think I've felt this alive in a long time. Claire stood beside him, her hands in her pockets. I reckon we all need a little sky now and then, she replied. They stayed there longer than they should have. Talking, laughing softly, sharing stories that felt too personal for daylight. Claire told him about her years as a nurse, about losing her father, about choosing this life because she wanted to matter to someone, even if just for a moment. Daniel listened like it was the most important thing in the world. And somewhere between the silence and the stars, something shifted, not loudly, not suddenly, but gently, like a door opening, after being closed for a long time. When they finally went back down, neither of them said what they were thinking. But they both felt it. Over the following days, something new grew between them. Not rushed, not dramatic, just steady, real. Claire still did her job, still followed the rules, mostly, but every now and then, she'd bring a little extra time. A longer conversation, a quiet smile, a moment that said, you're not alone anymore. And Daniel, well, he started healing in ways no chart could measure. The day finally came when he was cleared for discharge. Claire stood by the door, holding his paperwork. Well, Mr. Hayes, she said with a soft smile, looks like you're getting out of here. Daniel nodded, but his expression was complicated. Yeah, he said, guess I am. There was a pause, a long one. I don't suppose, he began, then stopped. Claire tilted her head. Go on, kiddo, she said gently. Daniel took a breath. I don't suppose you'd ever want to see that rooftop again, he said, without breaking any rules this time. Claire smiled. Not the polite kind, the real kind. I reckon that could be arranged, she said. And just like that, the night shift nurse who broke the rules found something she hadn't been looking for. Not all at once, not like in the movies, but slowly, through kindness, through quiet moments, through the simple act of showing up when it mattered most. Because sometimes, love doesn't come crashing into your life. Sometimes, it walks in quietly, at 2 a.m., down a silent hallway, and sits beside you, until the darkness doesn't feel so heavy anymore. If this story touched your heart, folks, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. And if you've ever experienced a quiet act of kindness that changed your life, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.